Hello everyone, and welcome to day number 94 of your Daily Chofetz Chaim. Today we will learn the fourth chapter of the laws of Rechilos. The Chofetz Chaim writes in halacha number 1. The prohibition of speaking Rechilos is even if you don't actually give the person any new information. But even if you knew all of the information and you simply make it into something negative, or you make him aware that it's something negative, that is also considered to be Rechilos. For example, the Chofetz Chaim writes, if somebody went to a court case, and after the case you went over to them and said, well, what happened? And he said, I lost the case. You would not be allowed to say, oh, they made a mistake and they got it wrong, because even though you haven't added any information, the fact that you're putting it in a negative light is enough to make it Rechilos, because you are creating those bad feelings that Rechilos is all about. In halacha number 2, the Chofetz Chaim continues and says, if somebody spoke negatively about someone else in front of you and another person, and that other person went and shared that information with the one who was spoken about, you would still not be allowed to go and also share that information, even though he's heard it already. Nevertheless, you would not be allowed to share that information a second time, because it will be more convincing to that person if he hears it from a second person. It was likely that he will believe it more, and certainly if you're going to add anything, it's not going to be allowed, and certainly if you know that he's not sure if it's true or not, and then you go and say it again, that will certainly be prohibited, because in all of these cases, you are potentially causing a greater animosity to be kindled between those two people. And finally, in halacha number 3, the Chofetz Chaim writes that if a person did in fact violate the laws of Rechilos and wants to do tshuva, then the proper way to do so is to firstly speak to the person who was affected, and to appease them and to ask them for forgiveness, and then to do your tshuva between you and Hashem for having violated the mitzvah, the avera of Rechilos, which, as we've already said, carries with it not only the actual prohibition of Rechilos itself, but also many others, and all of that needs to be covered under the tshuva that you do.